Yes. 2026. 2026. What you guys doing?
There, start off with a bang. Might need
Boy.
a calendar. We might need a January reading.
Hey, my people, talk this. We are wrong, we are wrong. I hope everybody had a good, holiday season. Not everybody celebrates Christmas and Hanukkah and all these things, but you know, no matter what you celebrate or you don't celebrate, we are alive and we give thanks for life still. But there's been a lot of stuff going on. There was so many things we could come online and talk about. But we didn't really feel like we had to jump on. To talk about everything. But this particular topic seems to not be going away. Um, and I guess for good reason too, right? So tonight we're gonna have discussions with Tamika Jude, who's an immigration attorney. We encourage people to ask questions in the chat. We encourage people to participate, make their comments, and we'll try our best to address as many of them as possible. Please try to keep your questions as not as personal as possible. We can't really go into too many personal discussions, but at the same time, general questions we could kind of ask and kind of see how things are going. There's been a lot
Anything you
of
might want some clarity on, I know a lot of people kind of can't navigate the jargon on the websites or whatnot. So tonight we're just here to help you guys out with translating that into English.
indeed, and I know a lot of people have um a concern, I guess, in terms of it seems like we started with one thing, and then it's like every week or so is like another addition of
Every day
something going
something.
on. Yeah, yeah, every day something like Signal say. So yeah, share the live if you guys don't mind. And we can go from there, and the people can ask their questions. So with no further ado, we'll bring on Miss Jude. Tamika, are you
I'm
there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't see you. I talked to you about that camera business, but you have to organize yourself.
I'm
But
driving.
you drive in. Okay. All right. Well, with that said, we just wanted to see um what are some of your thoughts? Some information and some news came out today. And we'll kind of talk about that, I guess, or some information on the embassy situation. But
Oh,
I guess if you don't mind, can you just give us a quick, maybe if you could make it a 5 minute explanation of what has happened so far from the start of the changes, the immigration to kind of where we at now.
okay. So back in December, we heard that Dominica was added to the list of countries with a partial ban. That ban list was first put out by the US sometime in June 2025. Initially, when it did come out, Dominica's name was mentioned as supposed to potentially being on that list. However, we were not on the list, but the list did say that they were giving the countries who were yellow a chance to fix their CBI issues. But in December, when the list was issued, Dominica was on the list, and the reason stated was that it operates a CBI program without residency. That partial ban means that the US, as of January 1st, 2026, would not be issuing student visas, visitors visas, or vocational visas. Those are non immigrant visas to Dominicans. A non immigrant visa is a visa that allows you to enter the United States for a temporary period of time to accomplish a particular goal. So, a student visa is to go to school, visitor's visa is to visit. There is also like a visitor's visa that's a B1, B2, like you can use it for business purposes too. But also, obviously, you cannot do any employment on a B2 visa. Um, so they also said that immigrant visas, which are green cards, would also be suspended for Dominicans. Issuance of those were suspended. An immigrant visa is a green card petition. the thing that affects Dominicans the most right now about immigrant visas are a husband can no longer file for his wife. That is, well, he can file for her, but she cannot be issued a visa right now. Her green card, she can be issued a green card to join her husband. Parents who had underage children after they got their green cards, who filed for those children, who have been waiting probably 3, 4 years, even if the children go to the embassy right now, they will not be granted a visa, a green card, which is the immigrant visa. So it's like parents, children, spouses. So if you have a sick parent and you filed for them so they could move to the US so they could be closer to you, they right now are not going to be able to be issued a visa. And that is just a consequence of the partial ban. Since then, Dominica was hit with a bond starting January 21st. Any visitors' visas that are issued to a Dominican will require a bond of either 5, 10, or 15,000 US dollars. The bond doesn't really matter for Dominicans because they're already not issuing us visas. So if you're not issuing me a visa, then it doesn't affect me that you're gonna have a ban for somebody who's issued a visa. However, there were certain exceptions to the partial suspension, like they have national interest. So if you can demonstrate that your admission would be in the national interest of the United States, then you may be able to get a visa. However, it is very hard to convince the United States that it is in their best interest to give you a visa to come visit their country. That that's really not something. The bar for that is like really high. So that's why they have not been granting those. An immigrant visa can also be someone who gets a green card for employment. So for the students who, there are some people who came here as students, they left, and the employers filed for them to come back to the States with a green card. Those people will not be able to get their green cards. So that is something that affects people in different aspects of the Dominican society. With regards to the bond, of course, we're not getting visitors visa, so it's not that much of an issue. However, USCIS, which is the agency in the United States that processes naturalization, green cards, they have essentially said that they're not adjudicating any type of application for Dominicans right now. Not only Dominicans, but for people on that list, the list where they had the full ban and the partial ban, there's 39 countries. Dominica was one of those countries, and as a result, they're not processing asylum claims for Dominicans. Dominicans' naturalization ceremonies have been canceled. Green card interviews have also been canceled. So, Dominicans are basically in limbo right now. Technically, USCIS should not be doing that since the proclamation should only apply to people who are outside of the United States. However, what they kind of mask it to say is we are putting this on hold until we know what we're going to do next. By the end of this month, we should have some guidance from USCIS to tell us whether they're gonna go back and start adjudicating Dominican cases again, or whether they're going to just keep Dominicans on hold until we get off the list.
Tamika,
Yesterday, yes.
while you're on that, what about adjustment of status cases? How does
Well,
that, where does that
yes. Great.
fall?
Yeah, those are the green card cases. They're also on hold. So work permits for Dominicans are on hold. Adjustment of status, green card, travel document. They are processing I-90s for Dominicans. An I-90 is an application to replace or renew your green card. They're still processing those, but
Well, processing those meaning those that are already in, or
you can
if you
still
know, if
file. Like,
okay.
even every application you can still file. The US government is never not going to take your money. That's why they haven't said, well, we're not going to accept applications from these countries. No. They're still going to take your money, but they're gonna sit on your application. So
Question before you go any further. So, with everything that they have passed so far, is there
mhm.
some type of timeline on when they're saying that they're gonna kind of review it, or is it just kind of indefinite?
It's basically indefinite in terms of they don't have a duration on it. The presidential proclamation where Dominica was hit with the partial ban states that they would do a review in 180 days. The Prime Minister of Dominica did come out and say that the US told him they would review in 90 days. So I guess we could be hopeful that it happens in 90 days, but a review doesn't guarantee that we're getting off the list. Hopeful that we do get off the list because a lot of people are affected. In terms of the ban, there are people who applied for immigrant visas like green cards who had interviews in October and November of last year, and the embassy basically sat on the applications. So the embassy, from the time the proclamation was basically put out there, a lot of the cases from people for those countries, the embassy just decided to sit on them. And then as soon as January came around, they emailed everybody to tell them they denied.
So Tamika,
Yes.
if one finds themselves in the situation like you mentioned with the naturalization, citizenship, and you have an expiring green card, what then is your course of action? I mean, I know you said you should go ahead and renew that green card, or can you?
You can renew your green card and you can still file. They're still going to accept your application. Now,
Okay.
the way this is supposed to work in theory, right, is you put in your application knowing they're not going to process it. And once the ban is lifted, they should start processing again. Now, I don't know if you guys know about DACA. Remember, DACA was there. Trump came in, they tried to stop DACA. USCIS was still receiving DACA applications for the entire time that Trump was in office, the entire time that Biden was in office. And now that the court has finally said they can start processing DACA again, we have not seen any DACA approvals yet. I haven't heard any attorneys saying that they've seen. And I'm a member of AILA. I haven't seen, and that's like the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So that's like all the immigration lawyers in the entire country. And we're monitoring these things. And there have been situations for other cases where USCIS have to email the law, not email, send a letter to the lawyer asking for a copy of the application because they lost applications. So we can foresee that if this ban goes on like for a long period of time, that some people's applications will get lost, and you're either going to have to find a lawyer to help you to find your case, or you're going to have to refile. But if your green card is expiring and you've been here the requisite period to naturalize, I would file a naturalization application because you're going to get an extension notice that will extend the validity of your green card. But if you feel like you don't want to waste time waiting for that, you can also just file to renew your green card. That's also an option.
Is both a wise option? So you would technically be both sides, safe on both sides?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess it's better than just letting it expire and you hear it, can I?
Yeah, if your green card expires, technically your permanent resident status is permanent, right? So you don't lose your green card status by having your green card expire. However, with regards to ICE and the law, your green card is supposed to be valid at all times. So you
And
may
it's
just be
also,
giving them
And with
an
you,
excuse.
is it supposed
and
to
Yes.
with you
also
at
be
all
with
times,
you,
right?
right? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna ask.
Yes. You're supposed to carry your green card with you at all times. There are people who say they're not doing it because they will lose it. There are people who say
Mm.
they're going to carry a copy of it. What I will tell people is I have seen green card holders get detained by ICE with a copy of a green card, and ICE will not release them until they can independently verify your identity. And they don't always do it very quickly. Sometimes they will
Mm.
take their precious time because we have AI. How easy it is for me to just take my face and put on a green card now. So, how does a copy of a green card help you? Because in the field, the ICE officer is not going to have the capacity or the capability of independently verifying your identity. They're not going to be able to take your fingerprints and run it. They're not going to be able to check your A number and check your stuff in the field. That's going to happen when they bring you to the detention center. And you just having a copy of a green card on a paper is not going to help you. So it is very important to have your physical green card with you. Maybe put it in a case with an air tag. If you're very careless and you think you're going to lose it, check Amazon to see if they have little wallet cases with an air tag on it. But it is very dangerous right now to not have your green card on you, your physical green card, if you're a green card holder.
On the issue of the partial ban, what kind of have you been noticing any patterns with people coming in as tourists? Like what kind of people getting in, what kind of people not getting in? You noticing any patterns? If people don't have family, they have a better chance, or if people have family, it's tighter for them. Have you noticed anything or?
I mean, I when this initially happened, I did say on Facebook to people that anyone traveling to the United States, and I made a joke. I said I need some guinea pigs. So my inbox has a lot of messages from people. Guinea pig number one reporting, guinea pig number two, and they kind of keeping track. And my subscribers on Facebook will be seeing more of those posts because they're limited to subscribers. But based on what I'm seeing, there are some people who got in with no issues with very limited questioning. However, there are some people who have been sent to secondary inspection. The people who go through Puerto Rico tend to have a more difficult time, but that is expected because, as we know, Puerto Rico is definitely not the best airport to go through. Miami is also a tough airport, but for some reason, some people say Miami has always been easy for them, but everybody has a different opinion. One of the things that has happened recently is I was contacted by two individuals that work on the cruise ship. So that's just two people. I'm not trying to generalize. I'm just giving you guys like a specific instance of what happened. Now, these are people who worked on the ship. This is not their first time going on the ship or coming off the ship. And one of them reported that basically they took her passport and she was on safeguard from the time they took her to the hotel room. From the time she got off the ship, she basically had a guard from off the ship till she got back on a plane to get back to Dominica.
Wow.
And that had never happened to her before.
Okay.
The other one, she came in, I think she told me through LAX, and the officer did scrutinize her quite a bit, ask a lot of questions, and she basically explained that the officer had somebody else come. Like they were trying to dig through like her travel history to see if they could find something to deny her entry or cancel her visa. When they couldn't find anything, they eventually gave her back her passport and let her go. So those
Wow.
are two people that travel very frequently, and it's only after this that they're having these incidents. And I know a lot of Dominicans are saying, "Oh, it's natural. The U.S. always stopping people." But the things that a lot of people are reporting right now, there's one young lady who stayed in a room from 7 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. at night with them questioning her intermittently in Miami. So
Wow.
while people think it's a lie and while people think it's not true, as an immigration attorney, I have seen this before with people from the Middle East. And I know the tactics that ICE does and CBP, where they will sometimes put you in that. It's almost like when you commit a crime and the police put you in the interrogation room and nobody talking to you, and then they coming back and talk to you, and one person playing good cop, one person saying playing bad cop, and one person saying, if you just tell me the truth, you can just go back to Dominica with no issue. Then another one will come in and tell you that they're gonna put you in a detention center. Like they do those things in real life, and they've done it to people from the Middle East. They've done it to people from Africa, and there are some Dominicans that it's happened to. Now, a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, I know a lot of people who travel and they didn't have any issue," but what people don't understand is these things are embarrassing, right? Number one. Number two, a lot of these people are so politically like motivated and connected that they don't want to admit that things like this happen to them, to like the average person, but they'll admit it to an attorney because they need help. So I have had people question the veracity of the reports that people are giving, and I tell them I've been doing this long enough to be able to tell when somebody, what they're telling me is very far-fetched and it sounds like it's not plausible. And because I know how CBP works, that's how I am able to say, okay, what this person saying may be true. With regards to changes for Dominicans, I had
Well,
one. Okay, go ahead.
hold on, Tamika. So we have a couple of questions in the chat. I think you answered this one, but I guess I'll just ask you again just to make sure that we cover that. So it said expired green card renewals are on hold as well,
N-
or
No,
no,
they're
right?
not. No,
Okay.
they're not.
Okay, I think you answered that. And then the other question is says the question I'm still not getting a straight answer to is Dominica under both bans simultaneously?
Yes. And
Okay.
I can explain a little
And
bit more how that works.
it's not just Dominica, right? Because I, send this out to a
Yeah,
few of my Caribbean friends, and I think originally when it came out, it was just Dominica and Antigua, I believe, right?
Dominica, Antigua, Cuba, Haiti,
Right,
Venezuela,
and then they added on a few other islands,
St. Kitts, St. Lucia,
Barbados,
Grenada, Barbados,
Jamaica, is in that as well?
Jamaica. Yes.
Okay.
Only Trinidad, Guyana, I think Bermuda, Bahamas. Those
Yeah,
those are not included.
Bahamas. No, Bahamas is on the list too. Belize is
Oh,
on the
really?
list
Okay.
too. Yeah, Bahamas and
Okay.
Belize are on the list. It is very crazy that Bahamas is on the list. Now, the second ban, I probably should explain that a little bit so you guys can understand how it's kind of simultaneous. So recently, I think sometime was it last month? No, it was this month. President Trump put out on social media like a list of countries and the percentage of people from that country that use public assistance in the United States. And I believe Dominica's percentage was like 45%. I saw that, and when I saw that, I laughed because President Trump
Hold on one
has
second, Tamika. Hold on. I'll go back, go over that again. You said they put out a list of country, I guess the people who get public
countries,
assistance.
like basically all the countries.
Hmm.
Basically, all the countries, they had Dominica, Barbados, Jamaica, basically countries in the world.
Hmm.
And when
And
you say
they,
public assistance for the people that not sure what that means.
okay, public assistance could be Section 8, it could be green card, it could be Section
Food
8,
stamps,
food
Medicare, all
stamps.
of that.
Sorry, did I just say green card? Yes. Food stamps, Medicaid. Those are considered public assistance. Yeah. Yeah, those are considered public assistance. So people who use those programs, they were saying that Dominica, I believe it was 45%. Um 45%, and that 45% doesn't even make sense because does it say that it's 45% of Dominicans who get legal status who use it, or would Dominicans 45% of the people like even the way it was, he just put a percentage, right? Which I thought was very weird because generally Caribbean people are very prideful, and most Caribbean people, even if they qualify for food stamps, they're not applying for it. So those numbers looked a bit inflated to me. However, he put that online, and once he posted that, I knew something was coming because in his previous term, President Trump introduced a new public charge rule, and that public charge rule basically gave us a whole immigration attorneys a whole new form that we needed to fill out for people that ask all your personal information, how much money you have in the bank. Like it was just very intrusive into finances. So after he was gone, President Biden removed that. And it just turned out that he's back again. Now everybody's saying, oh, this ban, and people didn't see it coming, but this was actually announced in the Federal Register back in November. So this is something that was basically, they even had like a period of time for public comment on it, on this new proposed public charge rule. They were even proposing, because right now, if I petition for somebody and I have used food stamps before, right now I can still sponsor somebody for a green card. What they're trying to do now is if I have ever asked for public assistance, I cannot sponsor somebody. So that is the proposed rule. And if it goes through, then basically a lot of people who have petitioned for people are going to see a lot of denials coming down the pipeline. So it is something very serious.
Yeah.
Any concern for people who may have like conditional green cards? Because you know sometimes people have to remove their conditions, whatnot. Any implications for them there, or they good?
Conditional green cards generally are not really subject to the public charge rule because you're already a permanent resident. But what they're doing now is they're vetting people a lot heavier than before. There were things that would fly before that are just not happening right now. Like, I have filed green card. I remember there was one time I filed a green card application for somebody, and he only had like two pictures with his wife. And I said to him, I think you need more pictures with your wife than two pictures. And they didn't have joint taxes. They had literally the only thing they had was just those two pictures. And I said to him, I don't think this is going to get approved, but you guys just got married. Collect some more evidence while we wait on your green card. In 3 months, the green card arrived at my office.
Mm.
Don't ask me how. He went, he joined the military, and this man literally got his green card in February, and by November of that year, he was a US citizen. But right now, that is not going to fly.
That wouldn't really.
That is
Um,
not going to fly. And I tell people, like, right back then, we got away with a lot more. And when you have an attorney, we know how to prepare the applications. We know what to put in to get you approved. But right now, he has made it mandatory that everybody has to get interviewed. Now, some people are lucky that somehow their applications get approved without an interview, which is not supposed to be happening. But guess what? If your green card gets approved without an interview, now your removal of conditions and interview is mandatory. Because the rule is
So,
you have to get interviewed once, at least once during your entire process.
okay. So if you get already got interviewed, the process for removal of conditions or whatnot, those things are unaffected by the current state of affairs.
Some people are still getting called to interviews. They go back and dig back into your original petition to
Okay.
see if they can find some dirt on you.
Mm.
So right now, and what they're doing now in terms of the USCIS and the way that they said they are going to be basically re they're doing that, they're gonna put a hold on adjudications. They're going back to review applications that they've already approved for people from these countries.
how far back are they going?
I am
Did
not
they
sure,
say?
I need to look. I am not sure. I just know they say they're going back.
I
And knowing
think I
them, they're
read
not gonna
somewhere as far back as 2020, I believe.
2020. Yes, 2020. Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. They did say they're gonna go back as far as 2020. So if you got your green card between 2020 and now, and you do some cocoa macaque, please ensure that your address is updated with USCIS, because if you get what is called a notice to appear and you don't show up to court, you're gonna get an order of removal, which means ICE will come for you.
Mm.
So stay
And
on
I
your
mean,
P's and your
sometimes
Q's.
maybe like, as when people become new immigrants, these are some of the things they forget. I mean, you forget it with
Mm-hmm.
your bank to update your address, these kinds of things. So people, if you're listening and any of this applies to you, make sure everything is in order, make sure you're updating your addresses and whatnot.
Yeah, and that is also mandatory. So another thing they're doing now is this. If
Hold on 1 second before you go into that. So, I just want to go over the list of countries again
okay.
that were affected, I guess, from the Caribbean. So, Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas. Hold on 1 second. Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados. Let's see. Cuba, Dominica, Grenada, Jamaica, Haiti. Oh man, so many countries, like 75 countries. St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. And I think that's it from the Caribbean. Um, Before you go into that, I heard a rumor today. I don't know if it's a rumor. I didn't, and then maybe I should have tried to confirm that before we started. So, from people from the countries like Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, I think Antigua as well, right? All go to
Mm-hmm.
Barbados, right, to get to
Yes.
the Barbados for to the U.S. embassy. Um, so I heard that the embassy was being closed down today. Well, not at some point, I guess maybe this year,
Mm-hmm.
and all operations that was in Barbados will be moving to Trinidad. Is that correct?
That is what I've heard. I heard that they are moving the operations to Trinidad. To be clear, Trinidad already has an embassy, and I always thought it was stupid that we were skipping Trinidad to go down to Barbados for a visa.
Why
It didn't make sense to me to skip Trinidad to go down there because Trinidad is closer to Dominica.
is it?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a
Yeah,
longer
but
flight.
Tamika, I think the issue here is connectivity. We only ever got a direct flight to Trinidad as of maybe last year. And
Oh,
also, don't
okay.
the embassies decide which countries they accept cases from? So, like in the Barbados embassy, it will say this embassy serves X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's just how the US. So
Yeah.
the US actually set it up where they give jurisdiction to different embassies. But based on what I know about Trinidad, I think Trinidad only I have to check, but I think Trinidad only takes Trinidad cases, because I have tried to transfer some cases to Trinidad and they sent me to Barbados from other
No,
countries.
but Barbados is no longer, in operation. I guess
Trinidad is the next
Trinidad
option.
has to be the option. I mean, where else in the Caribbean has an embassy? I know Jamaica has one. Trinidad has
Guyana
one.
has one. I think Guyana has one because that's where those Cubans have been going.
Okay. I have
Colombia,
a,
Grenada
but
also
Colombia
has
is not
one, but
really
Grenada
Caribbean.
doesn't. Yeah, Grenada also has one, but they don't do consular processing.
Hmm.
okay. Well, I have a question about social media, right? So are they using? I guess even before this ban, was that something that they were using to sort of, well, obviously when you put in for adjustment of status, or you go on green card, or you petition for a visa, is that something they were using to kind of deny people?
Or they were using they before they were telling you to put in your social media, and you could always choose not to put it in if you don't want to put it in. They never
Mm,
ask you any question at the counter. However, since President Trump came into office, he decided that it had to be mandatory. So, and they also put on the embassy website that your social media needs to be set to public before you go for a visa. That's something that a
mm,
lot of people miss too. So the people with the locked profile, and that's another thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, they didn't ask me no question and they deny my case." It could just be that your profile was locked. So they are using social media also to vet people. During this thing that's going on, there is a lot of anti-America narrative going around. And if people do intend to go to America anytime soon, they should be very careful of what they say. I know people were saying that nobody should be censored about their feelings, but as you can see, I don't think it's a coincidence that Trinidad and Guyana are not on the list.
mm.
Those were the two that didn't subscribe to the CARICOM letter about the US and being a bully and all of that. So the Prime Minister of Trinidad said something, and a lot of people are saying that people were critical of what she said. And I said, that lady is a very smart woman because she understands what's at stake. And at the end of the day, what they did in Venezuela is already done. No amount of talking, no amount of letter writing, no amount of going on it talk on the news and speak would have changed what they did. It's already done. So it really didn't make sense, and that's why I took some issue with the president of Dominica when this. But I think they said she made the statement in October. But I believe that I believe that the prime minister of Dominica, I think when he had his last thing, he said that he's not taking, basically he's not really saying much about anything. And I think that is a wiser approach in terms of the only people suffering now with what's going on is not the prime minister, because the prime minister and all the ministers, they can travel to the United States when they're ready. None of their visas were cancelled, and their visas are actually in a carved exception. So
Right. So I mean,
basically,
listen.
yeah.
At the end of the day, I guess leaders of the individual countries in the Caribbean, or collectively or individually, I guess they have a right to their opinions, and they were put into these positions by their citizens, right? So it is what it is. But I guess I just want to concentrate more on kind of how this affects the regular folk, right? Kind of, I know we talked a little bit about the bond, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned 5, 10, and $15,000. I thought it was only $15,000. I didn't know that they had different tiers. So what determines how much your bond is? I guess once you
The
go to the
consular
embassy.
officers, yeah, they determine your risk.
Mm,
So they look at you, and if they think you'll come back, they might give you a $5,000 bond
So 15,000 US dollars is what? How much money is that right there? For,
maximum.
what about 40 grand EC?
A
Almost that
little over
30,
that.
30 something,
No, 40
little
something.
40 something grand.
More than a lot of people might have in their bank account.
Which again means that is going to reduce access to the United States because people who don't have it will not waste their time and apply. Well, you know what? Let me take
Well,
that
well,
back. People will
in
still
also,
apply.
but also in addition to
Oh,
that, I was talking to a friend of mine about the person has a
hold
visa.
on, hold
Good.
on. Just on the bond. Um, does the bond have to be of your own funds, or let's say family, you visiting family, and then some family decides to post that for you? Does that, what is the, do you know if there's any specificity with that?
I mean, it just has to be paid on the government, the pay.gov website. I don't
Okay.
think there was any specific, but I don't know if I would pay. If I would pay 15 grand for nobody to visit me, what if the person reach by the airport and they go away? They reach by the airport and they run away, and then I lose my 15 grand. So I don't know how
Yeah,
many
well,
people
I
would be
mean,
willing to do it.
apart from who willing, I guess it's just like maybe posting bill. If you post bill, the person might take off. So it is what
Hmm.
it is. All right, we have a question in the chat there. I want to kind of bring up. Somebody says, can Ms. Joe clarify? She indicates second ban does not impact people within the US who are awaiting green cards. Then she said USCIS is canceling appointments for naturalization within the US. So I guess that Tamika, just clarify that statement.
Yes. So the the suspension itself, if you look at the proclamation, it's not supposed to affect people within the United States. However, USCIS has historically taken its lead from the Department of State. So even if they have not said they are suspending visa issuance to like green cards for Dominicans, what they just said is they're putting the applications on hold while they figure things out, basically. So that's why the proclamation itself doesn't affect Dominicans. The proclamation doesn't, but USCIS, based on us being on that partial ban list, has determined that if we're from high risk countries, they're going to put all our applications on hold.
And I imagine if in the event that the hold is lifted, if ever, then we will also to be talking about backlogs.
Yes, heavy backlogs. And right
Wow.
now, the visa bulletin doesn't have a specific category for Dominicans because we're in the other chargeability. Like the visa bulletin has certain countries with a very big backlog. It takes a while longer for them to get called to the embassy for their visas, like China, Mexico. Now, if this goes on for a long time, let's say it goes on until President Trump leaves office, if he leaves office, we are going to end up with probably a new category on that visa bulletin for people who are part of the partial and the full ban, because realistically, the visa numbers are not going to be available.
In your experience, do you or in your research or whatnot, are these kinds of decisions things that typically by the time it gets to that stage, are these the kind of things that change with from administration to administration, or sometimes these are just things that get stuck? So the current administration maybe gets known as the bad guy, but it stays on forever, way beyond them.
That's very tricky because we have to remember that a lot of things that are happening now, many people in government are not really trying to step up and stand against it in terms of the Republican Party, right? So let's say he gets out of office, but another Republican wins. Because they ran on this platform and a lot of them believe in these ideologies, it is very likely that this will continue. Now, let's say a Democrat comes into power. Remember, there are just so many things. It's like you go to your house and it's a mess, and you have to determine what is the most pressing matter. I just don't see immigration being the most pressing matter for an administration, seeing the amount of things that this president has changed and has messed with.
Let
I
alone
think,
Dominica.
yes, I feel like we're an afterthought with regards to that. Now, let's say that the Caribbean American people, in Congress and stuff, in Senate and stuff, if they, those that exist, if they try to push and someone tries to push a bill and we get signatures and we do something, I mean, it is possible that in that instance, it might bring some attention to what's going on. But I feel like it may just become one of those things that's just because the backlog we have at the embassy because of visa availability makes no sense to me. I think we should just do first in, first out. That backlog, clear the backlog, get current, and we should be fine. But you know why this will never change? Because Congress has never seen it fit. They've never seen it fit to fix that whole system that we had before of a visa bulletin. That was back then where they had even less. The backlog was not as big. The backlog was like 1 or 2 years. So they said, okay, we'll make 500,000 visas available for this category every year. But if we remove the cap on those visas, then we can get people processed a lot quicker. But that is just one of the things that happened that just ended up staying. That is why to this day, Mexico is severely backlogged, and so is China, and so is India.
Well, I mean, so in terms of, well, I tell you, we live in some serious times, boy. Like, things are just, you think of how people used to go to America back in the day, and and even now you find a lot of people was getting visas and stuff. I mean, I guess I would love to hear from. I don't know if there's anybody from countries that are not Dominica watching, but I would like to see or hear from somebody from maybe a St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, especially a place like Barbados with an embassy. Like, how was it? What was the experience like to get a visa to come to the US? How easy was that? And right now, a lot of things are gonna change. Um, Tamika, how can people, I guess, just looking ahead, what would you say over the next year or two for somebody who wants to come to the US? What should be some of the steps that they should take, you think?
That is so hard to answer because before you would tell people a visitor's visa is not a guarantee. It's not a That's not guaranteed, right? Because the officer has the discretion to deny you and you cannot appeal it. We would tell people that come to me and say, "Hey, I'm dating an American. What should I do?" Okay, cool. Get married because fiance visa can be denied just as a visitor's visa because it's non-immigrant. You know, we tell them to get married, but now that it's blocked, even through the marriage, even if it's a parent, even if it's a child, you're sort of just telling people that if you have a family member who can file for you, they should still file the application, and we're just waiting to see what happens next. It's not even something I can tell people, well, we're going to get off the list within the next XYZ months, or it's just one of those things that I would just tell people still file your applications and remain hopeful. If your applications are in the system, then hopefully, we can be fine. When President Biden did come into office, he did reverse the first ban that President Trump put into place. And he did order that the embassies resume processing of cases. I believe that using that precedent, maybe if we get a new administration, we can basically push for that based on the fact that it had been done historically.
Yeah, Tamika, how much more time we have? We have a few more minutes here, so
Yep.
I just gonna shoot. I'm gonna tell people try not to be too specific, but we have a little specific case there. So somebody is saying that they live in Anguilla,
Mm-hmm.
but they are Dominican, and they got their green card by applying as a
Mm-hmm.
Dominican citizen. Now they have become an Anguillan citizen as well. So they would like to know, they still are in Anguilla from what I understand. So they like to know, I guess, what should they expect, I guess, at the border? Should they present themselves as a Dominican, as an Anguillan citizen?
Which
And I guess
passport have
the
the visa?
immigration,
Dominica. Not the visa, green
Well, I
card.
assume they get the green card already. I believe
Yeah.
they
Also,
say they have their green card
yeah,
already.
well, if they have a green card, the country they're from doesn't matter because you're a permanent resident of the United States. It doesn't matter.
What about when naturalization is concerned?
They can use their anguilla, but it depends on what's on the green card. The green card has a country on it, right? But I
Okay, well,
think it
listener,
does. I'm
if you're
trying. Let me see.
listening,
The green card does it have? Give me a minute.
it
I
does.
need to look.
From what I remember, the green card usually has the
What I'm trying
country
to see
of
if it have
citizenship.
country
That's
of
like
birth or country of citizenship. I'm gonna look at a green card there in my files. But
No, but
I
if
think
the
it's
person got
country
the
of birth.
Anguillan, if the person got the Anguillan citizenship after they got the green card, they're gonna have Dominica on it, regardless.
right, right.
Yeah, but I
That is
mean, you
true.
can put it does ask you for citizenship on the naturalization into application. So I guess you'd put Anguilla as citizenship, and when they ask for other citizenship, you put Dominica.
Mm.
Hmm.
But which passport are you traveling on when you leave the US?
But you
But Anguilla
probably should.
isn't Anguilla part of the UK?
I don't think I don't think they carry British passports. I'm not sure.
They have so for the British territories, they have a own British territory passport, but they
Yeah.
also have a UK passport. So they have two passports.
Okay.
So there is
Okay.
the option. But he would have to, I mean,
Oh, we don't know
if
if it's a
asked, he
here,
would have
man.
to say, well, they would have to say whether they would have to declare both if asked, right? Or no?
Well, on the application, you have to put citizenship. You can't go and put Anguilla alone. When your green card application and the entire process have Dominica, the officer is going to feel like you're being disingenuous. But the application does have a place for you to put if you have multiple. But yeah, the green card says country of birth. So they will know that you're a
Mm.
Dominican based on your country of birth. But they do ask for citizenship on your application. I guess you would have, if you're traveling on your Anguilla passport, then it's good to use the Anguilla because that's what the naturalization is going to be based on that. Because your trips outside of the US, they use your passport to track your trips. So if you're traveling on a Dominican passport, you can't try to use an Anguillan passport for naturalization.
Mm.
But if you're traveling on the Anguilla passport, then you can use it to show your trips outside of the country because you have to put in the passport number on the application because that's how they're gonna do their internal check. If you have two passports, you have to present both passports.
Okay. All right, so we try our best. Tell for whoever that person was there to get a little answer for you. So I hope it helped.
Anything
Yeah,
else? You have to book
yeah,
a
yeah.
consult.
Book a consultation. Yeah. We have another question in the chat. It says, "Do the bans affect student visas as well?"
Yes, the proclamation, the partial ban does affect student visas. Students are being denied.
So you middle of school, and you have to just that's it. You out.
No, well,
Well, you're
that's
not in the middle.
if
You should be inside.
no,
I
well,
mean,
that's if the thing. What they calling that?
but okay, let me ask a different question because I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
a student visa. So let me ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a student visa, do they give you a visa for the 4 years, or is it like each year you have to like do something to renew it, or how does that
Well, the
work?
student visa is an entry document, and what a lot of students do, and I keep telling people not to do it, is when the visa about to expire, they leave the US to go to the embassy to renew the visa. I have told people multiple times not to do it, but people don't listen and they say they want to get the visa because they want to get the visa because they want to travel. I keep telling them, you want to travel to go where? I don't know. But they want to travel, so they leave the US and go down to the embassy. I know of two people who spoke to me in December. I told them not to leave the US to go down there to get any visa. They still left. They went and their visas were denied. And one of them has one more semester of school. The other one has two more semesters. So if you have a student
But
visa,
if they didn't leave though, what would be the other option then?
if they didn't leave, they just stay until they're done with school.
Because your visa
So,
is not your status doing. Your
No, your
visa is for
status is
entry.
duration of status while you're in school. So
so
you're
then what? So
allowed
then
to
what do you
stay.
have? What do you have now? I'm saying that you are there legally.
Your
A
I
stamp in
20.
your passport and your I-20. So the stamp in your
Yes.
passport will say DS, and then you have
Duration
your
of
I-20
status.
document. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So that is what gives you the right to remain in America, not the actual visa. The visa is an entry document. So I like the analogy I usually tell people. If you're inside of your house, do you need your key to get out?
Depends on
You
what kind
only
of
need
lock
your
you
key
have.
to come in.
Depends on what kind of lock you have on your door, you know.
Well, the
But
lock
but
in
so,
America is a one-way lock, so it's not a situation where they have to they need
But
a visa to exit.
Tamika, regarding student visas, wasn't there like I know in terms of travel on student visa, isn't there some kind of adjacent rules? So if you're traveling to Mexico or somewhere in the Caribbean, anywhere that is adjacent to the US, so you don't really need a like a renewed visa to re-enter if it expires. That's dead
Yes,
in the
they do
water.
have the revalidation, but that is too risky right now. I'm not even telling people about that. Because
Okay.
when they stick, they say it's on Talk The Ting, I tell them to do it. And I don't want that kind of fire. So I would just tell
they
people
can
right
give they can
now,
give they can give Talk the thing the fire, you know. Just subscribe and give us all the file you want. No
yes.
problem with that.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think
but
we have a
right
few more
now,
questions.
yeah. I don't think I really answered any question though, the one about the ban and the so I had to explain. So
Okay.
basically the partial suspension for the countries is one thing. It blocks immigrant visas and it also blocks the visitors visa, student visa, J1 visa, right? Then we also have the bond, which only affects visitors visa. Now, this new proclamation affects immigrant visas, which are green cards. Now, I think it's redundant for the countries who already have a ban, but the reason they are doing that is because there is a possibility that the ban gets lifted for some countries, but they still don't want them to be getting those immigrant visas. So it's almost like a fail safe, just like the bond. If you get off the list, you're still not off the hook on the bond. If you get off the list, then you're still in that list of 75 countries. So whichever way you turn, there is still going to be something on you. And it's just a fail safe. So yes, we are under three different things right now. And each of them have their own independent um basically their own independent area where they apply. So unless they have a blanket rule that if you come off the list, you come off everything, then you just have to assume that once you're on that list, unless they change the who's on the 75 countries, we still on the 75 countries. If they change who they're giving the bonds, yeah, but the bond is also a pilot program which was only supposed to be lasting a year. So I think sometime in August of this year, that whole bond thing should be resolved unless they decide to make it permanent.
Okay.
Have any more questions?
Yeah, anybody has any more questions, you guys know is the time. Put it in chat. We have a couple more minutes. Um, Tamika, I guess while we wait to see if anybody has any other questions, can you let
I
everybody
see somebody
know?
asking about
Oh,
OPT
yes, yes,
and also another
yes,
question about removal of conditions.
yes.
Okay,
So somebody
so
say, what about students working OPT?
what about
Um,
them?
I'm assuming, I guess, well, again, that's another question for
Travel.
clarification. What does the OPT mean? Again, some of these things that a lot of us maybe didn't go through. So what
Yeah,
does that mean?
OPT is basically it's like training, optional training that students do. Like after you finish your degree, you can, depending on what type of degree you have. If you have a STEM degree, you have more time than someone who did something like psychology or one of those degrees that is not STEM. But you're allowed to stay in the US and you can work for a certain period of time before you decide to either probably work, get a job that sponsors you for probably like an H1B, or if you're gonna go back to school. So it's just a period of time that you get to do some training, just work in your field. Since they have suspended, they put on hold applications for work permits, and Dominicans are included, then you can understand that if you do put in a request, that work permit may not be approved while they still have the hold on. So that is going to be a
Hmm.
bit problematic for F1 students, because if you don't, there's a certain period of time that you need to actually be doing something. And if you're not, then you're going to have to leave the US.
What about the implications of travel if you are currently on OPT?
I mean, generally, from what I understand, they are trying their best. Like CBP is trying their best to let people in. Those with existing visas, they are letting them in. However, there have been students, not Dominicans. Finally, I can say something that doesn't apply to just Dominicans, but there have been students who have been stopped, and some of them have taken the advice of traveling with their transcripts and traveling with the I-20 and their documents just in case they get stopped. And if CBP is not satisfied that you're getting grades that are good enough, they can deny you entry into the United States. Because as a condition of your visa, you have to maintain satisfactory progress towards your visa. So if you're failing, there's a possibility that they may not let you back in. So if you know you failed a class last semester, or you have not been doing very well in school, I would not put myself in that position unnecessarily. So they do check when you're supposed to graduate. They're also checking, let's say you have your grace period. There's some people who do this thing. I don't know why they do it where their grace period, they try to travel out of the US during their grace period and come back on the visa. They will not let you in.
Mm. And I know you spoke about people who I guess will soon be trying to remove conditions or whatnot.
Yeah. Make sure your
Uh,
evidence is top tier and understand that those applications are also on hold.
and what about travel implications for those people?
I mean, a green card is a green card. So as long as you file your
Okay,
application on time, even if it's an extension letter, you might get sent to secondary inspection, but
okay.
chances are they will let you in.
We have one other question before we end it for the night. Somebody says, any comment on legal stay period granted to Dominicans now entering the US on existing visas?
Yes, I posted. I think last week I had like three different people talk to me about their travel, and I asked each of them to check their I-94 for me. Your I-94 is a document that tells you how much time they give you in the US because they don't always stamp passports. I don't even think they still stamp in passports. But because of that, I said, hey, check your I-94. How much time did they give you? One person was shocked to see that they only gave them 30 days. Another person also said 30 days. And I'm like, did the officer tell you anything? He said no. The officer just asked them the questions and then tell them they could go. Then one lady actually said that the officer told her that right now, like the system, they were kind of shocked as to why the system was only saying 30 days because normally it's 180 days. And the officer told her that right now, what they're seeing in the system for Dominicans is 30 days maximum in the United States. When she told me that, I had to verify it because I couldn't just go based off the data that I had to make a generalization. So I spoke to a CBP officer who I usually, as attorneys, we have connections. So I spoke to a CBP officer and asked him about the situation, and he said, yes, there is a lookout for Dominicans. A lookout is something in CBP system that basically flags people based on certain characteristics or certain things that they have. Let's say the whole country, the ban list. So if you're from a country with a ban list, there's a lookout for you so that the officer looking, like interviewing you at entry, knows that you're from a country for partial ban. So they understand that they have more questions to ask you. So he said that for right now in the system, he checked the system. He told me right now in the system, they're seeing a maximum of 30 days for Dominicans. Um, I only asked him to check for Dominica, so that's why I can't tell you about other countries. I know some people are asking, like, what about the others? I just don't want to make a generalization without any data to support that.
And
So
this is
basically,
even for people with existing like 4 year, 10 year visas and whatnot.
yes, that's for them specifically. So it's not 6 months anymore. Um, at least for now. Now I know when I initially mentioned that, some people were like, oh, they need to see it on an official government website. You're not going to see it on an official government website because it's an internal policy. Internal policies are not always published, and a lot of these things are temporary. So they're not the nature that CBP is going to put that. Because even when they have a situation where they're only giving people 15 days from certain countries, it's not on their website either. The only way you can find out is when you try to come in and you notice what happens, and then people monitoring the situation notice a trend. So this is not information that you're gonna find online. You're actually getting insider information right now. So I tell people plan your travel for at least 30 days or less. If you plan to stay longer, you can come and tell the officer if you have a situation, medical situation or something that you need to stay longer. If the officer tell you I'm giving you 30 days, you can ask the officer if there's a way to extend it because of XYZ reason. But let's just say you get lucky and they give you longer than the 30 days, then you can change your ticket. But it's safer to go in with the 30 days, seeing that that is the trend we've been seeing.
I guess the last point I feel like I want to end on. So Dominica and Antigua seems to be in a category by themselves. Even if they added on some additional Caribbean countries, Dominica and Antigua still are in a worse condition than the
Condition,
others, correct?
yes. Correct. Because they have that partial ban on their visitors and other non immigrant visas that the other countries don't have.
Okay. All right. So my Dominican people, you guys heard it. You guys didn't hear it here first, but you heard it here best. I gotta say. So we gotta cut it out for tonight. We might be back with another episode. We'll have to see how things kind
If
of
something
progress,
else
and
change,
yeah, if something else change, we'll come back. And kind of, so next time we'll give you guys a little bit more notice. We wanted to kind of get this thing while strike while the iron was hot. I think that the whole thing about the embassy closing down in Barbados is a big hit for a lot of these smaller islands, right, where people will go into Barbados. But it is kind of wild. It is kind of a lot of stuff going on right now. But again, keep everybody keep their head up. America don't have it. If you have
mm,
to wait a little bit, you'll come when your time have to come, and it is what it is. And for people going down for carnival, like, I'll give you guys a little warning there. If you know you don't organize, stay where you at. Cancel your ticket. Give up the rentee. Yeah, other people looking for rentee. All right.
Tamika, just let people know where they can find you. I mean, if anybody needs
Oh,
your
hold on, Rajiv. Hold on, before she say that. There's a key question, and I was going to ask this question. I see somebody ask it. I just want Tamika to comment on that. 1 second. Somebody said, a Dominican national who are US citizens under scrutiny.
I think everybody is under scrutiny right now. President Trump has started a denaturalization campaign. So I don't think it's specific to Dominican citizens. However, um, there's something crazy, and I can talk about it because it's a family member. One of my family members tried to go to Canada. And the funny thing is, she didn't even grow up in Dominica. She was born in Dominica, but didn't grow up in Dominica. And when she tried to enter Canada, they said her passport wasn't valid. She's a naturalized US citizen.
and the
So,
Canadian said that.
yeah, when they scanned her passport, it was not passing as valid. TikTok had a lot about that, and a lot of people were saying that it may not be true. So when she saw my post about it, she hit me up and told me that, what happened to her in Canada when she was trying to enter Canada.
Wow.
So we have to just be careful and, because in America, they let you leave America, but when you enter the country, there was an American citizen who was deported from Thailand the other day because while he was over there, his passport came back as invalid and they had to deport him back to the US. So everybody just needs to be on alert. I can't say
Be on alert.
specifically Dominicans. Yeah.
Be on alert. Like I said before, you didn't hear it first, but you heard it best. All right, with that said, we're gonna let everybody leave. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Check out some more of our videos on Spotify. Well, not video on Spotify, but the audio on Spotify, the videos on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share the video. A few people tell me they were gonna tune in, but they're working. So when they're going home, they
We
can
we
listen and
didn't
take and they
tell
can
the
watch.
people where they can find Tamika if they need her.
Yes. Tamika, go ahead.
They
Tamika, go
can
ahead.
find me on attorneytika.com.
attorneytika.com. All right, you guys
Yes.
heard it here first. And if they want a consultation, I guess they'll get that information from attorneytika.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right.
attorneytika.com. You guys heard it here. All right. With that said, have a good night, everybody. Stay safe, and we will talk. You guys will see us in the next episode. Peace.